Good morning, everyone. So this is my presentation on culture. My name is Ashley Smith. So my population are psych patients at the St. Mary Emergency Room. So these are patients who come into the ER for mental health problems. It could be detox, suicidal ideations, or any of the psych patients. That includes patients with a history of schizophrenia, or any kind of other mental illness. So this is an instant stop for patients. So even if they have other medical problems going on, we have to put in a consult from the emergency room doctor to have the patient evaluated by the PAT team. So they can't just be discharged once they're medically cleared. The PAT team has to come in and help us figure out what the next steps are for the patient, what most makes sense for the patient, and how to continue their care. So some ideations for some of these psych patients are they might see or might believe that mental illness isn't real. They might have a different opinion on what is going on with them, that it's not a big deal, it isn't something that needs to be treated. They might have different opinions on the direction their care should go. And then we also have to worry about how truthful are they. So if they're an SI patient, are they actually going to hurt themselves? Is this just something that they're saying because maybe they're a homeless patient and they want to get out of the cold and they're familiar with how the system works? Regardless, we have to make sure that as medical providers, we are evaluating the threat and taking all situations very seriously. We can't just assume that they are here seeking this type of attention just to get out of the cold. We need to actually evaluate them appropriately and treat them. So another ideation is, here we go again, and again, and again, one more time, and again. There are many patients who come in for detox or SI or anything like that, but regardless of how often they come in for the same situation or even slightly different reasons, we still have to make sure that we are assessing them each time and treating them as a brand new patient to make sure that we are appropriately assessing the threat. So a couple of ways of providing culturally competent care are removing the stigma. Like we talked about, it doesn't matter if they've been here before or they'll be here again tomorrow. We need to make sure that we are treating each patient as an individual and we are deeming them with the respect they deserve to be treated for whatever's going on. Another way to provide culturally competent care is to collaborate with the PAT team. So the PAT team are very knowledgeable medical professionals who are able to assess the situation with the patient. They can help deem how serious the patient is with certain things, such as detox, if they plan on detoxing, or if they aren't very committed to the situation, or how much of a threat they are to themselves, if they have a plan with suicide, if they've had previous attempts, stuff like that. So to provide culturally competent care, we need to make sure that we are collaborating with the PAT team and including them so we can make sure we are fully assessing the patient. After that happens, then the next step is going to be transferring the patient for continuation of care. Our ER facility does not have an annex. We do not have the capabilities of continuing care for these patients. So it's very important that we send them out to the best place for them, whether it's for detox or SI specifically. There's different facilities that have different pros and cons and can help that patient in different ways. So our scenario for today is a scenario that actually happened about 2 weeks ago. The patient comes in with suicidal ideations and has a history of schizophrenia. The patient has a plan to hurt himself, but also isn't making a lot of sense when asked questions. Patient is petitioned as a threat to self by the PAT team. Patient is changed out into green scrubs and left in triage room 2 while the charge nurse finds a sitter for the patient and obtains a room for the patient. Patient then uses the triage phone to call the ER and states, "I can't wait any longer. I can't be here." Patient hangs up the phone, pushes through the triage 2 door, shoves a nurse and another patient, and runs through the door, out through the lobby, and into the parking lot. Yikes. So there are a lot of problems with this scenario. The patient should have never been left alone in triage 2. Once they're deemed a threat to self, they should have immediately been moved to a secured area and had a sitter on them to make sure that there was nothing that could have caused the patient any harm, especially the patient themselves. It was great that we changed the patient out so the patient had less options and less things available to them, but they should have still not been left alone. So some solutions would be removing the stigma and paying attention and doing what we can to continue care for this patient. Of course, things are hard in the ER and it's always hectic, but it's always going to be hectic. So we need to make sure that we're treating each patient as a new patient in a new situation and giving them the most attention that we can. These are all appropriate actions for the future. Learning from this mistake and using it to best treat patients is the best option.